What was your most disappointing "this is not what I expected" moment after being hyped for something? Best friend said she had exciting news for me and our other best friend wants to meet up. I am thinking pregnancy or engagement. Pyramid scheme. Amazon Prime Day. Inner tubing down the Delaware River. They said the water was moving pretty good. They said they had plenty of rain upstream. Got there. They drop us off with tubes and life jackets. The water was 1 foot deep, barely moving, and to boot the wind was blowing us upstream. We wound up walking the 5 miles downstream because it too shallow to float. The 10 of us demanded a refund and got it. What a waste of a day. When I was young, Puffin cereal had a promotion where you could adopt a puffin. I got excited and asked my dad if we could do it, and he said yes. I was so excited. I asked him what puffins eat, because we needed to start preparing for our new friend. That is when he informed me you just gave money to a charity, and they counted that as adopting a puffin. I learned loss at a young age. When I was in 6th grade 1996, we had a little fundraiser to collect money for the school. First prize won a Game Boy. I hounded my mom to help me sell as many magazine subscriptions as I could. Actually won. And I received a Game Boy-like device, with the capability to play one game, basically the modern equivalent of getting a cell phone that can download one app. Every single participation of England in any football tournament ever. When I was a little kid, ABC's Wide World of Sports was a Sunday afternoon program that was several hours long. I happened to catch the start of it one Sunday, and they announced that one of the events on that day's program was the Flamingo Stakes, one of the greatest spectacles in racing. I sat through the whole show because I thought they were going to be racing flamingos. Nope, just dumb old horses. When I was 12, I was in Mexico for Cinco de Mayo. Was pretty disappointed when I found out nobody gave a shit except Americans, lol. When I was a child, Kraft had this promotion going on with their mac and cheese that if you collected a couple things, maybe like parts of the box with a picture on them or something, I do not really remember, and then sent them in, you had get a little toy train in return. This was right around the release of the Polar Express, so it was a little model of the engine. Now, being the child I was, I did not realize it was going to be just a little toy. I thought it was going to be at least big enough for me to ride on, but to my dismay, it came in a tiny little box. My mom opened it up, and I started crying. All of my hopes and dreams had been crushed. Going up the Empire State Building, it was $50. We waited 2 hours. All of the staff were incredibly rude, and then when we finally got to the top, it was so cloudy you could not see the ground or anything else around the building, not even the next block over. The good news is, we have hilarious miserable pictures to commemorate the experience. Sea monkeys did not quite live up to the glory I was promised. Moved to a popular beach town, ducking tourists ruin everything. Golden State winning the NBA Finals this year. So I am Indian, but I hated Indian food as a kid. Once when I was around 11, my mom promised that if I finished all my dal, which, of all Indian food, was my arch nemesis, she would take me to see a movie. Now I rarely got to see movies, so that was treat. Would she take me to see Sky High, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I was so pumped and managed to scarf down the entire bowl in like 3 minutes flat. She took me to see March of the Penguins. I am sure it is a great documentary, but when you are an 11-year-old kid pumped for a fun blockbuster, watching penguins huddling for 2 hours is a major letdown. I was very young, sitting at home playing with toys or whatnot. My dad comes in the house grinning like an idiot, all excited and everything. He tells me he has something for me in a very unusual bubbly happy way. Little me is intrigued. I ask what it is and he tells me I have to guess. I ask if he got me a new toy. Number. I ask if he got me a new video game. Number. I ask if he got me a pet. Number. Little me pauses to consider, trying to decipher the look of joy on my old man's face. I got it. I am excited. Are we going to Disney World? Dad's face suddenly became nervous, like he just realized that this might not have been the best way to do things. Tells me it is not Disney. Pulls out a plastic bag from behind his back and tells me to hold out my hands. I do so. He drops a chocolate bar in my little palms. I stare at it flabbergasted for a moment. I say thank you and give him a hug. We both walked away in complete letdown of what we expected. Comic-Con. I really wanted to love it. I was so excited, but I just did not enjoy it. I would not be back, but I am glad others get to enjoy it. When Beetlejuice was in the theater, there was a promotion at a local cinema for saying Beetlejuice would be there. I was so excited that Michael Keaton would be in our small town. I begged my dad to take me so we could meet him. This was no small effort on my part because my father was not a nice man and I did not like being around him. He agreed, and when we got there I almost started crying. Instead of Michael Keaton there was a young teenage girl in a striped suit, poor runny makeup and a crooked wig taking tickets. I try not to get my hopes up anymore. Crunch in Ibon. Not as awesome as I was told it would be. Granted, it was Crunch in Ibon that told me how awesome it would be. Had heard about an Aragon movie that came out many years back. Turns out it was a shitty abridged fanfic. Conversely, as a fresh graduate and persistently being told horror stories about adulthood, being a working adult has not been as awful as I have been told it would. It's not serious, but buying Elder Scrolls Online, I thought it was gonna be like Skyrim but online. Nope, just a lame MMO. Watch Dogs, so much hype behind it. Was excited for years. Went to a midnight release only to play it for 3 hours and never again. When I was very young my great-grandmother died. My very Catholic relatives explained that we were going to something called Awake, which would be our last chance to say goodbye to her before she goes to heaven forever. They made it sound like she would actually be awake, and since they were constantly telling me about miracles I did not find that odd. A few hours and one funeral home later and I became just a bit disillusioned with religion. Sailing, mostly endless hours of not enough is happening and then a bit of way too much is happening. I sailed for 3 years. I describe it as a life of extremes. When it is great, it is ducking awesome. When it sucks, it really sucks. There really is not much in between. You needed more liquor for the slow times. Losing my virginity. It only lasted for a few hours, but when my wife and I arrived in Paris via Gare du Nord, ducking sketchy people everywhere, ducking trash everywhere, ducking smell of rank piss, ducking terrible introduction to a city. We just arrived via train from Brussels, which we loved, but apparently a lot of people online said it's boring, overrated, I dunno, and getting off the train to Paris ended up being a major letdown. As stated above, it only lasted a few hours. We ended up loving Paris and I hope to get back someday. Gonna show some age here. Mad Balls. I remember commercial after commercial of living, talking, balls with attitudes. They were foam, just foam. Destiny. I liked the mechanics and the feel of the strikes for a month or so, then I felt nothing. The Eastern State Penitentiary Halloween attraction in Philadelphia. I was so hyped to go around 10 years ago. I heard so many stories about how scary it was supposed to be and that there were tiers of scariness where you could drop out at any time if you could not handle it, and that people would be separated from the group, etc. It was around 20 to get into. In reality it only took about a half hour to get through, which is how long the line was as well. Nothing special, just people dressed up like monsters and a part where you had to put on 3D glasses. When we came out at the end I could have sworn it was just the end of the first part. Nope. Huge disappointment for 15-year-old me. Frozen. I waited until it was out on DVD to watch it. I was expecting it to be the best Disney movie ever since it was so hyped up. I think Tangled was by far a better movie. Meeting Conor Oberst. It was after a show in Indianapolis last year. He clearly did not want to talk to anyone who waited outside to meet him. He was nice enough to sign some of my records, but he kind of treated it like a hassle. I am sure there are lots of video games that rank higher than this, but Star Wars The Force Unleashed, do not get me wrong, I love the story, but the gameplay was supposed to be the second coming of Jedi Knight 2 and it was just so buggy and bad. To be fair, I blame video game sites and news networks for overhyping it, especially G4. I do not blame Adam Sessler or Morgan Webb because they were following corporate dialogue, but the amount of hype and this is going to be great they kept advertising was disgusting when release day came and Blair Duckenherter has to be the one to tell us yay. It is A25 and nothing was said about it again. The only other game that stands out would be Brutal Legend, but Sfu took the cake on overhype. The Sims 4, I was promised more extensive emotions and instead I got badly portrayed bipolar caricatures with bright colors. Cocaine, that shit was such a letdown, and it apparently was really good quality, it is just not my thing. Working for a living. Iceland's quarter-final against France right now, but man what spirit, loved that they never gave up. Going to see the ball drop in NYC. There was a new product still in development that was being hyped as transparent superhydrophobic and oleophobic coating called Neverwet that would cause water to shed off of nearly any surface, rendering anything from clothing to circuit boards and electronic devices impermeable to water, dirt and grease, emerging clean and dry after being immersed or splattered. It remained as a future possibility for years before a product was finally introduced to the market, as a Rust-Oleum branded system of 2 spray-on layers. I was one of the first people in my area to buy it, and the first at my particular Home Depot store. I had to explain to them what it was, and why I wanted them to break open the pallet and sell me one. Turns out, the product ended up being not at all like the early promotional videos which had disappeared at that point, replaced with videos about the final product. It was not very oleophobic, only hydrophobic. It was not transparent, but appeared on the surface as a very visible cloudy white coating. It was not durable, and could be easily rubbed off even after fully curing, even minimally, rubbed abraded away. It would lose much of its hydrophobic quality, totally unusable for clothing, and it came with warnings against using it as a conformal coat for circuit boards and electronics. One of the promoted uses according to the early videos would not have been quite so upset about it, except it was also plenty expensive, something like $30 if I recall correctly. I still have the cans, and I have yet to figure out anything it would actually be useful for, given the narrow circumstances in which it has ended up being effective. Honestly, the souks markets in Marrakesh, everyone I spoke to made them out to be a fascinating labyrinth of sights, sounds and smells that you can wander around all day, which is true, to an extent, but no one told me that they are not pedestrianized, meaning mopeds use them as miniature highways. No one told me about the people that give you the wrong directions on purpose, and then ask for money to show you the right way. Someone tried this about once every 15 minutes. No one told me that I did be constantly hassled, to the point of harassment, to buy some shitty leather slippers or some overpriced argan oil. I dunno. I loved them in the morning, when they were quiet and you could actually spend some time looking at the stuff on sale. But once they got busy, they definitely were not for me. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.